Hi everyone, I'm Vinay Kumar. I'm a product manager in the inbound product management team in SPM BU. So we will talk about all things financials at the execution layer today. Even though the topic says project financials, what we offer in SPM is much beyond uh, being confined to the projects, right? So when we say project, it is any type of work item. It need not be a waterfall project. You could want to track your financials on your agile work items like epics or features or capabilities, even a CWM board, any generic work item that you actually use to execute the work. We support financial planning and tracking on those work entities. So it's not just project financials, it's financials on all work items is what we are going to cover today. So this is a high-level agenda. First, I'll give a quick overview of the workflow that we support in financials end-to-end, and then we will do a deep dive into each step in that workflow as its own capability. And also we'll ensure to cover the configuration aspect of those capabilities. And at the end, I'll also give a quick overview of the future enhancements that are coming up in the next quarter when it comes to financials. So by the end of this session, our aim is to enable you to have a good understanding of the financial planning capabilities and how to configure them. And also you should be able to easily communicate the benefit and value of financial planning in ServiceNow SPM. So first things first, this is the end-to-end workflow that we have built for our users in ServiceNow SPM applications across different workspaces. So it covers two different major persona types. One is the execution owner. It could be a demand manager or a project manager or a product manager. And then the second user persona is a portfolio manager who is at a higher level looking at the execution entities in their portfolio, managing their portfolio budget and ensuring that the total cost of their portfolio is not going over budget. So it all starts with a demand manager or a project or product manager adding a new work item like a demand project or epic into a backlog where they are proposing that, hey, we should consider doing this work. And that could be a project or a demand or an epic or a feature, like I said. So the demand or project or product manager, they would first start giving an estimate to that work item, and those estimate could be of type labor on and non-labor, right? So because you will have some resource component cost and also non-resource component cost like software, hardware, and other miscellaneous costs. Now after they are done estimating those costs, a portfolio manager would look at the backlog of those items and have a portfolio budget that they have been handed over with or they have determined for their portfolio that that is the amount that they have for that portfolio for that planning cycle. It could be a quarter or year or a flexible by quarter as well, right? So we support planning durations of all types for portfolio planning, and through that exercise, which can be done using the new scenario planning capability, they would determine which items would get the budget and which items won't be prioritized. Now, let's assume a project got prioritized and got approved with the budget. So that's when the budget gets approved and populated on the project. Now, after the project execution starts, the project manager or the product manager would start tracking the actuals and also reforecast the future estimates if there is any deviation to the initial estimates. And while they do that, the portfolio manager can continue to monitor those latest forecast against the previously approved budget using the new portfolio financials view in SPW or PPW, which we have covered in one of the previous sessions. And if they detect any project going over budget, they can ask the project manager or product manager to reforecast to bring the cost within the budget. Or if that is not possible and if there is a genuine reason that they would need that cost increase, then if possible, the portfolio manager can revise the budget of the project so that the project manager can continue to spend that amount and complete the project. And it then ends with the project being completed within the budget. So this is the end-to-end workflow where it all starts with a proposal for a new work item and a owner giving an estimated cost and benefits, getting the approval from the portfolio manager for that budget, and then continuing the execution of the project, monitoring the latest forecast, reforecasting, and do any budget revisions if required. So now we will dive deep into each of these steps when at the record financial level, because the portfolio financials was already covered in a previous session. So we will majorly focus on what's possible on a individual project or feature or epic from the record financials view. So before we start with the step, like I said, financials are supported not just on demands and projects as of like the classic experience. In the new financials, we support financial planning on multiple type of entities across hybrid and agile methodologies as well, in addition to the waterfall methodology. So to do that, the customer should be using the strategic planning workspace, or the strategic planning workspace, because that's where we support the agile model of execution. And by default, financials are not enabled for all type of entities. By default, they will be enabled just for demands and projects. But how can you enable it as a partner or as admin? If a customer wants to track financials on an agile entity like a feature, how can they do that? That would be possible by creating a new entry into the investment entities list, where you can select the table of the record type for which you want to track financial. So in this screenshot, it is enabled for feature. And once this entry is created and set as active, then the financial tab will start showing up for that entity type. So I hope you are able to see my screen. I am on the strategic planning workspace. So we have a portfolio plan named HR Agile. Here, this portfolio plan also supports tracking of features along with project demands and epics. So we have a feature named AI skills assessment. So for this feature, we can see the financials tab, where you can create your cost and benefit estimates, and also do everything that is possible for financial planning that is possible on projects. So that's the first step in the configuration. How do you enable financials? So once the financials is enabled, by default, it is enabled for demands and projects. And using that configure, you can extend it to additional entities. Now, the first step in our workflow is giving an estimated cost for that work item. And one of the major categories of cost is the labor cost, right? And labor costs are usually generated based on the resource assignments that are done to that particular work item, a demand or project. Most of the customers would start on a demand, where they will first give a high level resource assignments, probably by role or whatever is the resource management attributes that they use. And based on those resource assignments, they want to generate labor costs so that they can have an estimation of what would it cost for the labor work to be done on that particular demand. So let's see how that looks on a demand in this live environment. So I have a portfolio plan named IT FY26. It is created for the IT department of a company, and it is created for financial year 2026. So there is a demand named AI Project Insights V1. And for this demand, there are some resource assignments which are already created. So there are two resource assignments for software engineer role, and one resource assignment for quality analyst. So one resource assignment, if we open this, it is for a named resource named Aaron Peterson. And the second resource assignment is an unnamed resource assignment by the role of software engineer. So a resource is yet to be allocated. Now, based on this resource assignment, the user can generate labor costs. So this is the financials tab. And if you select generate labor cost option here, the system would look at the number of hours and the rate of those resources, and calculate the cost by each fiscal period, and then create cost plans. Now, if you look at these cost plans, there are two major questions that someone might ask. How did it arrive at this date? How arrive at this rate? Why is it $500 based on those resource assignments? So that comes from a rate model. So rate model is a age old capability. It is not specific to new financial. So there is a rate model that is assigned here. Um, so it is important that you first create a rate model in an instance, where you can define the rate of the resources by different attributes like group, role, resource, and you can give individual rate lines to know to specifically mention what is the rate of a particular attribute. So here, if you see for Aaron Peterson of software engineer role, and from this group, the rate is $300. And in general, for a software engineer role, and from this group, the rate is $200. And for quality analyst, it is 200. So the system has taken those rates. So here we can see it's 1 hour per month. So I've kept that simple so that you can understand the conversion. So we can see that the quality analyst cost plan is created for $200 for each month, coming from 1 hour per month. And software engineer, we can see that even though there are two different resource assignments, there is only one cost plan created for the cost of software engineer. Why is that? So that's because that's what the customer has configured in this instance, uh, about how they want to track the financial costs based on the resource assignments. So they can do that using the planning attributes configuration. So the planning attributes configuration enables customers to define the attributes by which they want to track the cost. Previously, in the classic experience, the labor cost plans has been created one-to-one with resource plan. So if I have Vinay Kumar assigned to a project for 1 hour, I would have a cost plan created for the cost for 1 hour. If I create another resource plan for the same name for another 1 hour, it would create another cost plan. So there is always one-to-one relationship, which was not very efficient way of tracking financials. Uh, Usually, the resource management needs are different from the financial tracking needs. So the resource management, they want to do it based on a particular attribute, like what is the role of the resource, where is the resource located, whereas the financials are mostly controlled by the finance team. They want to see what is the capital, is that resource assignment capitalizable or not, or is that resource an internal resource or external resource. So the new model separates out the resource management process from financials, whereas you can still make them same, but the power is in the customer's hand about what attributes they want to choose to track financials. So out of the box, role, expense type, and employee type are the attributes by which we give the capability to generate financials, but these are configurable. So you can choose any attribute on a user profile, like location or even color of an eye, for example. So any attribute on the employee profile can be configured as a financial attribute, and also any attribute on the task. So is it a capitalizable task or operational task? Or is it like, what is the phase? Is it a design phase task or a development phase task? You can choose any attribute on the task as well, and then auto generate cost plans based on those attributes. So here we can see role, expense type, and employee type are the financial attributes. That's why the cost plans are created unique to the combination of those three attributes. The internal is the employee type, software engineer is the role, and OPEX is the expense type of this demand, which can be changed. So on the details page, you can change the expense type of the demand as capitalizable or operational, and financials will be generated based on the expense type of the demand or even a project task. You can even choose expense type on a specific resource assignment. That is also possible. So that's how you generate labor costs based on resource assignments. Now, coming to the configuration part, we have already covered the rate model and planning attribute. So, like I said, the planning attributes are configurable. So, one of the most asked use case is, what if I want to track the cost of each resource separately? I don't want to do it at a consolidated role or group level. I want to see how much is each resource costing, because probably that is how the timesheets are entered. So in that case, you can define a resource planning attribute of type resource coming from the user table. And then after that, the system will generate cost plans for each individual resource separately. If there are additional attributes which are different, for example, if the same resource is working on a capex task and opex task, in that case, there will be two separate cost plans, but it would give you a granular level of cost plan generation by resource level. We have a full community article on how to do this, so you can check out this link on the community site for future reference. So apart from that, I said that demand or project can be categorized as a capex or opex. So that value can be set as default using a system property. So this is the system property, which if you set it as capex, then all the new demands or projects or epics will be categorized as capex. So by default, it is currently opex, which can be changed. And then there is another property where, for example, when the system generates labor cost, it looks for a specific cost type of type labor. So it will look for a specific system ID. But in case if a customer has deleted the out of the box labor cost types and created their own cost types, in that case, this system property can be used to map the newly created labor cost types to these categories. So you can check out the docs page for this as well. So this is one of the common questions that we get asked when they try out the new labor cost generation. The cost plans don't get generated. So this is one of the common things that customers miss. And the generate labor cost, like a demo, it needs to be triggered manually. It won't automatically create cost plans whenever a new resource assignment is created or updated. That's because of performance reasons. But we understand that we don't expect users to always click the generate labor cost after they made the updates to resource assignments. So you can use these scheduled jobs, generate labor cost for demands and projects, or generate labor cost for Epic, to automatically look at the resource assignments and generate cost plans. They can be scheduled at a very frequent time interval, like 15 minutes or once per day as well, so that users need not manually trigger it, or if they missed refreshing, the scheduled job will do it. So those are the main configuration related to labor costs. Now let's move to the next step, which is a non-labor cost. So non-labor cost plans are usually entered manually. So they can be done using the new cost plan option in the side panel. So user can enter the cost plan name and give a cost, give a particular time range, like fiscal year 26 M01 to FY26 M12, and they can select the cost type. So in this case, I'm creating a hardware capex cost plan. I can choose this as a recurring cost or split between these two, all these fiscal periods. So when I say recurring, this amount will be entered per fiscal period. So we can see that the amount has been entered and created as a cost plan for hardware cost. So I can even edit it in cell if I want to quickly modify the value. So that is how you can create non-labor cost plans for non-labor cost estimates. So there isn't much complexity there. So one thing that you can configure here is, in this view, there could be some additional attributes to what we offer out of the box that the customers want to track. For example, they want to track the vendor for the hardware or labor cost. So those additional columns can be added by modifying the list view in the cost plans list. So you can see additional information from the configuration docs page. You can also modify the cost plan form layout that we see in the side panel to add any additional feeds. Similarly, in this page, the widgets which are shown on the top, they give a quick summary of like what's the latest estimated completion, is there any budget approved, what's the planned cost, actual cost. These widgets are also configurable. You can use out of the box project widgets list and create new widgets or modify existing widgets. The only thing here is, if the widgets needs to be shown up on the new financial space, they need to be associated with a table of investment. So you can refer existing widgets to see how it works. So moving on to the next step, once we have estimated the cost, the next step is usually to estimate the monetary and non-monetary benefits. So as we are talking about financials, we'll focus on monetary benefits. So whenever a project is evaluated, the portfolio manager would also look at like what am I going to get in return if I prioritize this project. So the benefit plans answer that question. The user can give a estimate of how much benefit that they can expect in return once this project gets completed, so that the portfolio manager would know the ROI and will prioritize this project with the required budget. So in this case, I have created a monetary benefit plan saying that we will get a new revenue of $1 million. And once I save it, that gets showed up as the benefit amount against this project. So the benefits is currently only supported on the related list. We are currently in development to bring benefits into this financials page. We will talk about it more at the end of this presentation. So that's how customers can create benefit plans to give an estimate of the benefits that they can expect out of a demand. The next step in the workflow is allocating budget. So the demand or project manager has done his job where they have given the estimated of costs and benefits. Now the portfolio manager needs to review these costs and estimates as part of their portfolio planning exercise. And they would usually use a portfolio financials view that is available in the strategic planning workspace. So here they can, using the scenario planning, they can set a portfolio target, do the analysis, and then approve budget. So that was covered in the previous session. But in this session, I want to cover about the record financials page. So besides scenario planning, if the portfolio manager want to quickly approve budget for a single record, they can do it directly from the financials page using the budget allocation display mode. So the budget allocation display mode makes the budget view editable. The user can allocate budget at a year or quarter or even at monthly level. So in this case, the portfolio manager here can see that there is an estimated cost of 120K for CapEx and 6,500 for OpEx. Let's say they are okay to approve this amount as budget for this demand. They can just copy this value as budget, or they can even enter a different value. Let's say I don't want to give 6,500, I want to give 5,500 as budget. I want the project manager or demand manager to reduce their estimates. In that case, I can even modify this value and then I can approve the budget. And while I am doing it, I can even capture the financial baseline for future reference. So now the budget is approved and we can see the success message and the budget gets populated on the widget. So the budget acts as the approved budget for that particular record. And the project or product manager, as they execute that work item, they need to ensure that the costs are not going over that approved budget amount. So this enables users to maintain financial discipline and ensure that they are not going over whatever is the allocated budget amount that they are allowed to spend. And when it comes to the new financials compared to the classic financials, there are great improvements in the way you can allocate budget. So in the classic view, you could only allocate budget and view budget comparison at yearly level. But in the new financials, you can even see it at a quarterly or monthly level. So that's where lean budgeting comes into picture. So users can approve budget quarter over quarter instead of like a whole budget for the full year to see if the value is indeed being realized out of those projects, and then make a decision to incrementally allocate additional budget or deprioritize it and prioritize a different high value project or epic. So this, and even the project manager can view the cost and compare it with budget at quarterly or monthly view. And another great capability of the new financials is you can allocate and track budget by not just capex and opex, but also at granular cost type level. So you can allocate budget by software, hardware, labor separately, so that you can have detailed budget allocation and tracking of costs against the approved budget to ensure that they are not going over budget in each of those categories. So coming to the configuration of this new budget allocation, it usually can be enabled using a system property named enable budget allocation v2. So for existing customers, because there is a migration aspect, we don't enable this system property as true by default. So it will be initially set to false, and it needs to be set to true, and then each existing demand or project needs to be migrated to the new data model so that the new view can support viewing the budget of the existing items. But if it is a new customer, then the new budget allocation will be enabled by default and users can see it from the starting. And I said that you can allocate budget by either capex, opex, or at a detailed labor, software, hardware level. So that can be chosen at an instance level, and it can be done through another system property named budget allocation attribute. So by default, it will be set as expense type, as that's the most common used level. But for customers who are looking for detailed budget allocation and tracking, it can be changed to cost type. so that they can allocate and track budget by software, hardware, labor separately. And for existing customers, like I said, for the demands or projects which already had budget in the previous data model, they need to be migrated using a migrate budget link, which is available on individual records or in bulk from the list view. And there is also a scheduled job named migrate budget for active demands and project, which can be run at once to migrate budget for all active demands and projects. So this is, I just want to stress once again that the properties and migrations are very important. So I get a lot of questions on like, why can't I see the new budget view? So just make sure that these configuration steps are done before a customer can start using the new budget allocation. Next, after the budget is allocated, like I said, the project manager can see the budget and compare the latest forecast with the approved budget. This will help them to avoid over expenditure on the work and stay within the budget that is allocated for them. And they can see that, like I said, by expense type or cost type, depending on the attributes, and also at a flexible time scale like monthly, quarterly, or yearly level. So I'll just quickly show you how it looks for a project manager. So as the project manager is not allowed to revise the budget field will be read only for them. So whenever they see the financials, this is how the budget versus forecast view looks like. So the budget will be uneditable and they can see how much does the latest actuals look like and how does it compare to budget and if they are going over budget at a quarterly level. So for past, we will show comparison of actuals to budget, and for current and future, we show the comparison of the forecast and planned values to budget so that they can compare the latest estimated completion and not just planned or actual values, as estimated completion is the true indicator of what it would take to complete the project. So the project manager can first have a quick overview in the widgets. So here they can quickly see that they are over budget, and then they can see the breakdown at the grid level for further analysis. So next, we are done with estimates and the budget got approved and the user can compare the forecast with budget. Now, as the project execution started, the user wants to also see the latest actuals. So they can do that using the different display modes that we have available in the project. So the display modes is a new capability that we just released in Q3 store release. So we have different views for different use cases. So the forecast view enables users to see what is the latest forecast of the project, which is actuals for past fiscal periods and plan for current and future fiscal period. Together, they add up as the estimated completion value, which can be compared with budget and see if they are over or under budget. So they can quickly add actual cost for past fiscal periods using the add expense line button, which will auto-populate all the relevant details. The user needs to just enter the amount and set the state as processed, upon which the actual cost amount gets rolled up against the respective cost plan. And based on the actuals, let's assume the user want to reforecast the future estimates. They can quickly do that by double clicking on the future plan cost values and updating the values. So that's how a user can easily track actuals and reforecast the future plan cost. There are other views like planned versus actuals where the user can easily see what is the estimated cost and what is the actual cost for past fiscal periods. And then there is the planned display mode where they can only see the planned cost for all fiscal periods. So the last step in the workflow is the ability to compare baselines for the financials. So in the classic experience, when we used to give the ability to compare baseline, the user can compare the planned cost with the planned cost of previous baseline or between two baselines. And then there was no way to actually look at the actual cost from past baselines. So the new financial compare baseline screen gives much more beyond that. So when you are comparing the financial baselines, you are not comparing fields to fields, but you are comparing the total cost of the project between 2 points in time. So if I'm comparing the latest financials with the initial baseline that was captured when the project got approved, I would be able to see what is the total cost of the project at that approval stage versus what is the latest estimated completion or forecast at the current stage. So what that means is for past fiscal periods, I will compare actuals with the estimates, and for future fiscal periods, I will compare the few latest estimates with the initial estimates. So that gives a much powerful view for the portfolio for the project manager to track what exactly impacted the total cost of the project, not just comparison of which estimate changed and which actuals changed. So I would welcome you to do a deep dive into this topic using our community article where we have explained this in much detail. So the new financial baseline ensures that financial discipline is established in the customer organization where they can easily track how costs are changing over time and also be able to answer questions like what changed and when did it exactly change. And these financial baselines can be created manually using the create baseline option in the financials page, and also through a scheduled job, which is create financial baseline for active demands and projects and for planning items. So we have two separate jobs, each for demands and projects and planning items. And for projects which are created in the classic view, those financial baselines need to be migrated to the new financials experience. We have migrate financial baseline link and a scheduled job for you to be able to do that. So I think that covers the whole end-to-end workflow of the financials in the new experience, where we started with estimates for costs and benefits, got the budget approved, and then tracked the latest forecast, entered actuals and reforecasted, and then compared the latest forecast with the approved budget, and also compared baselines between 2 points in time to identify the variance in cost. I would quickly like to call out two major items here. So first thing is the new budget allocation is not yet compatible with the classic investment funding capability. So the classic investment funding allocates budget to the old data model. So if you are using or if a customer wants to use the new financial budget and also the scenario planning, they can't continue to use investment funding. So it's a either or decision. In future, we have plans to bring the entire investment funding capabilities into the new experience upon which they can migrate. And in the new financial experience, you can only allocate budget to bottom level entities like demands, projects, or features, epics. High level entities like programs, portfolios, initiatives are not yet supported. I want to quickly cover what we have in plan next for the new financial experience. So the first thing that we are currently working on is monetary benefit plans, like I already said. So in the new financials view, we currently only support entering your costs and actuals and approving budget and baselines. So if you want to track your monetary benefit plans, estimates, and actuals, that is coming in one of the future quarters. We are currently targeting it for December release, uh, subject to safe harbor notice. So users would be directly able to create new benefit plans in the financials view, and they would be able to track the estimates and actuals directly in this view. And they would also be able to see the net return against each fiscal period after this enhancement. So the next enhancement that we are currently working on is multi-currency in the new financials. So this is a major parity item for the new financials when compared to the classic experience. So users would be able to set an additional currency apart from the functional currency to be able to track the financials on a particular work item. So one big thing to call out is previously we just had it for demand and project as demand and project currencies. Now, just like any all the other financial capabilities, even multi-currency will be supported for other planning items for which financials is supported. So user would be able to set a currency as what we call as investment currency, and then be able to track both costs and benefits in that additional currency, and also track actuals and budget in that currency.